What's happening, everyone? Dr. Dan tweeting here. And this is going to be a discussion on how I was 100% naturally able to increase my testosterone from the 500 nanogram per deciliter range up to 800. It's an important subject to talk about because my research into the endocrine system and testosterone levels in men has shown that men have experienced a steady decline in testosterone levels over time in our modern age in the past few decades. In fact, the median total testosterone level in the 1980s used to be 500 nanogram per deciliter, somewhere in that range. In the early 1990s, it was down to 400. Early 2000s, we're down to into the 300 range. And all the research indicates that this trend is continuing and will continue to show a decrease in testosterone levels. So when I've looked into this problem, it seems to be multifactorial, which is probably why it's not being addressed, because when problems become multifactorial, it gets complicated, and trying to address it gets complicated. So I'm going to be discussing all the things that I use to implement 100% naturally. Again, 100% naturally increase the testosterone from the 500 range to 800. And this was done by lab work on total testosterone. It was about a year or so ago that I had my testosterone levels checked when it was in the 500 range. It was right around 540. And then just this past week, I had it checked again and it was 800. So let's start talking about some of the things that I implemented to try to help with this problem. And first, we'll just discuss some lifestyle factors, and then I'll discuss some environmental factors that I tried to control for. So first, lifestyle factors, that probably number one thing was diet, and focusing on a diet that helps support the endocrine system and its function. And with this, that included adding extra healthy fat into the diet. Some of my main fat sources were olive oil, about 3 tablespoons of olive oil a day. I like to use it as a salad dressing and eat a salad every day as well. Other good sources of fat were avocado. Ate about 3 or 4 eggs a day. That has good healthy fats and good cholesterol. I know there's some controversy about cholesterol, but actually with clean as diet as I eat, I actually have the opposite problem with cholesterol, where my cholesterol levels sometimes drop too low. So I actually make a note to try to eat foods that have cholesterol so it doesn't drop into the low range, because that can be just as detrimental to health as too high of cholesterol if it drops too low. Nuts were another source of healthy fat. I prefer pistachios and walnuts as a source of fat from nuts. And then with the fats, I also made sure to have healthy carbohydrates, primarily through fruits and vegetables. I'm a little bit carb sensitive, so I limited my total carbohydrate intake. So the carbs that I did have, I made sure to really make them count. And so this was carb sources from green leafy vegetables. I prefer green leaf lettuce, but spinach and kale are just as good. And for fruits, I really like berries because they're very rich in phytonutrients and they don't have a ton of sugar like other fruits do. And they have plenty of good fiber as well. So blackberries, raspberries, blueberries, strawberries are all great. I made sure to include those. In fact, the research shows that these healthy fruits and vegetables that are rich in phytonutrients are also rich in flavonoids. And that has a function on the mitochondria within the Leydig cells. The Leydig cells produce testosterone. It basically helps the mitochondria absorb more cholesterol and use cholesterol, so it improves overall function of the cells themselves within the Leydig cells. And this can help increase testosterone. It might be why my cholesterol levels tend to drop a little bit as well, because I'm eating so many fruits and vegetables. Protein, I kept to about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. The research I did showed that you don't want to go above 35% of your overall calories coming from protein. So for me, I'm about 230 pounds. I eat about 3,500 calories a day to maintain weight. So that's about 230 grams of protein, which is under the 35% limit. And that's from good sources of protein: chicken, steak, fish, turkey, that sort of thing. Oh yes, and I do want to mention with fish, Fish oil is also very important as a healthy source of fat because it contains omega-3 fatty acids. Now, personally, I don't eat fish every day. Instead, I'll supplement with fish oil, about 6 grams of fish oil a day to get the omega-3 fatty acids that help with the omega-3 to omega-6 balance, and that's been shown to help with inflammation. And even the research I've done into it shows that having that good omega-3 fatty acid source helps improve the function of the Leydig cells again. So that's your fats, proteins, carbs. Basically a healthy, clean diet, avoiding the overly processed stuff. Definitely want to stay clear of trans fats. They're just not good for you. And yeah, just having an overall healthy, clean diet. Another lifestyle factor is getting good sleep at night. I'm very cognizant of my light exposure. I try to limit light exposure right before bed, at least a half hour. That means staying off the TV, no cell phone, that sort of thing. If I want to do something, I might just listen to some music and read a book, that sort of thing, a half hour before bed. And then first thing in the morning, I like to get some light exposure. If it's warm out, I'll go for a walk. That gets some sunlight in the eyes. Obviously, I'm not staring directly into the sun, but this is just helping set the circadian rhythm so you sleep better at night. And if it's not good weather, at least just getting outside for a little bit, getting some sunlight is good light exposure first thing in the morning. And then at night, making sure you have a good mattress, a good pillow to sleep on at night. I'm both a back and side sleeper, so I use a tri-core pillow, which has the cervical piece in the middle of the pillow and the raised side. So if I'm laying on my back, I have that cervical support. If I'm on my side, I have the support as well, so my head's not tilted one way or the other the entire night, and that helps me with my sleep. Because sleep deprivation has been shown to decrease testosterone levels. As well as sleep apnea. So if you suspect you have sleep apnea, that could definitely be affecting your overall levels of testosterone. So you do want to have that checked out as well. Okay. Other lifestyle factors is I do exercise. I do both cardio and resistance training. The weightlifting especially has been shown to help with testosterone levels. I mean, you just got to do the heavy lifting, compound movements, you deadlifts, squats, bench, that sort of thing. And cardio, as long as it's not excessive, because you don't want to be doing hours and hours on end of cardio, because that can jack up your cortisol levels. And there seems to be at a certain point where cortisol becomes inverse with testosterone. And that is, if cortisol levels get too high, at a certain point, it starts to detrimentally affect testosterone levels, and testosterone levels start to drop. So as long as you're not doing hours and hours of cardio on end, you'll be fine. I do half hour, an hour, 3 or 4 days throughout the week of cardio, nothing too excessive. Because cardio, it's good for just burning some calories, helping with weight management. And again, obesity is a major problem when it comes to testosterone levels, because the research shows, and we know that in obese individuals, the aromatase enzyme gets overly activated in obese individuals, and that enzyme converts testosterone into estrogen. So obese individuals tend to be estrogen dominant because of that enzyme converting testosterone into estrogen. Okay. So that's some lifestyle factors, exercise, good clean diet, getting good proper sleep at night. An important thing is to control heat exposure. I mean, you got to be careful with hot tubs, saunas, that sort of thing, because if the joules get overheated, that's been shown to affect the Leydig cells, and therefore you might not produce as much testosterone. And then alcohol and tobacco, they have also been shown to detrimentally affect testosterone levels. Alcohol especially seems to affect the pituitary gland, the hypothalamus, and the Leydig cells, like all these bodily structures that are involved with the production of testosterone. It negatively affects. So you definitely just want to minimize the alcohol intake and be careful with products like tobacco as well. Okay, so that's some basic lifestyle factors that I implemented that helped. There are a few supplements that have been shown to help with testosterone production as well, herbal supplements and vitamins and minerals. Some of the vitamins and minerals I made sure to take was vitamin D. Especially during winter months, people tend to get deficient in vitamin D, so it acts kind of like a hormone, and there are receptors in the Leydig cells for vitamin D. So if you have a deficiency, obviously it's going to affect testosterone production. Boron's another important micro mineral that you want to make sure that you're not deficient, as it can affect testosterone production. Zinc and magnesium as well. Personally, I take a ZMA supplement at night that has both zinc and magnesium. And that seems to work pretty well for me. So the boron, the zinc, magnesium, vitamin D, calcium is another one. I tend to eat yogurt, Greek yogurt every day. It has calcium and probiotics. Probiotics are another thing that seem to be an important part of diet that might be beneficial for digestive health, and that can be beneficial for the body overall, including testosterone production. But the calcium in the Greek yogurt's also been shown to be helpful for testosterone production. The herbal supplements, there are a few out there. The ones that seem to be best for me are the ones that help with cortisol, help overall with cortisol. The main one there is ashwaganda. I take that one at night. That one's supposed to help keep cortisol levels in check. Being a small business owner, having 2 kids, obviously the schedule can be a little bit hectic at times. So I think that's a good one that seemed to help. Another one that seems to help with cortisol management is Fenugreek. So that's a good one as well. So those were the 2 that seemed to help me. Some other ones out there that might be worth mentioning, TONGKAT Ali is a good one that can help boost testosterone. Fadogia Agrestis. Now this one personally I tried, but I don't take. And when I took Fadogia, it gave me the sensation that my tongue was swelling. I looked in the mirror and everything, and it didn't actually swell, but it just felt like it did. So it was a very uncomfortable sensation. So there must have been somewhat of an allergic response to taking Fadogia in me. So I tend to avoid Fadogia. Obviously I don't want to experience that, so I'm not taking Fadogia. I stopped taking it after that. But another good one is Mucuna pruriens. That one's been shown to help with dopamine production, and dopamine is a neurotransmitter, and it's basically involved in the body's reward system as you try to pursue something, to achieve a goal, achieve an objective. Dopamine is released in the pursuit of achieving this goal or objective, and the mucuna has been shown to help increase testosterone. And there's an interesting interplay between dopamine and testosterone production. The way basically it works is, so say you have a goal or an aim, and you're working towards it, you're accomplishing it, you're getting that dopamine release, which is rewarding you. And then when you actually achieve a win, that releases testosterone. And so one thing that I do is I have daily goals, daily targets that I try to accomplish. And as I'm accomplishing them, I'm recognizing that as a win. And there's actually research studies that show that people who win more tend to have higher levels of testosterone. So that's another thing I'd recommend, is have daily goals, daily targets that you can accomplish. And as you accomplish them, chalk that off as a win. And overall, winners tend to have higher levels of testosterone. Okay, so those are some herbals to consider. If you wanted to know a basic way of approaching that, of course, you'd want to talk with a healthcare practitioner before taking any herbals, and of course, before trying any of this out. This entire video is for educational purposes only, and you should always talk with a qualified healthcare practitioner especially if you think you have problems with your endocrine system, maybe your testosterone levels aren't high enough. You need to discuss with a qualified healthcare practitioner before making any healthcare related changes or taking any herbal supplements like I just said. But my basic approach to it, so for like myself, if cortisol might be a little too high, then the ones that help with cortisol, such as the Ashwaganda, the Fenugreek, are good. Just for a general boost in testosterone, TONGKAT Ali and Fadogia Agrestis. And then if you don't have much drive, you're just lacking ambition, Mucuna pruriens might be one to consider. So those are some basic lifestyle things that you might look at. There are some environmental exposures you should be aware of as well. And these are basically estrogenic substances or anti-androgens. And in our modern day and age, our exposure to these estrogenic substances has just gone up and up and up. So what are some common ones to look out for? Well, self-care products such as deodorants, shampoos, soaps, creams, anything you're rubbing on your face or body, that sort of thing. The two substances that might be found in these are phthalates and parabens, and those have been shown to be estrogenic. Other things to look out for, I would recommend using filtered water or drinking filtered water from a charcoal filter. The thing is, municipalities don't tend to filter water as adequately. They're really good at filtering water when it comes to bacteria, stuff that would acutely make you sick. But these estrogenic substances, they still tend to find their way into the water supply. Things like birth control, things like pesticides can be in the water. So I recommend just using a charcoal-based filtered for your drinking water. And sunscreens, now I'm in the winter right now, so obviously this isn't a problem, but I would use zinc-based sunscreen rather than just regular sunscreen, because if it's not zinc-based, it likely has oxybenzone in it, and that has been shown to be estrogenic as well. Okay, and if you want another reason to avoid overly processed foods like your processed grains, they tend to have pesticides within the processed grains, such as atrazine in it as well. And again, that's been shown to be estrogenic. So be cognizant of your environmental exposure. There's a number of lifestyle factors to look at when it comes to diet, managing your nutrition, your exercise, your sleep habits, and just your exposure to heat. And then your exposure to estrogenic and anti-androgens as well. There's a lot of things to look at. And again, that's a multifactorial problem. You look into the research, all the research studies out there say, this is a problem, we need to address it, we need more research into this, we need to start doing stuff to address this problem, because with low testosterone, there's a number of health consequences with it. Fertility rates start to go down, and indeed, other research out there shows that fertility rates are declining. It also affects a person's health. There's an increased risk of diseases like type 2 diabetes, loss of bone density, increasing the risk of fracture, loss of muscle mass. It's just not good. Loss of libido. There's all sorts of problems, and women get affected too. It affects their body state, and they're at more risk for developing diseases and problems and fertility issues as well. So it's a big problem that needs to be addressed. Hopefully you gain some knowledge of some things that might help you out when it comes to lifestyle, diet, sleep, all that sort of stuff, and environmental exposures that might help. If you want more information on the environmental exposure side of things, I would take a look at a book called Estrogeneration, written by Dr. Anthony J. He goes really into depth on the estrogenic substances out there, the research showing what they can do, and some practical tips for you on how to better avoid these environmental exposures to estrogenic substances. So if you like the video, hit the like, hit the subscribe. If you have any questions, leave a question in the comments below. I'll be sure to get back to you. Thank you so much for watching the video, and have a great day.